Hey guys, welcome to our final video in which we start adding win conditions and building out more levels and basically finishing up the game. Um, I have one level made and I've made a few more so we can show us how we can link them together. Uh, and we're going to go over some of the, anything else I haven't gotten around to. This video is probably going to cover it. So we're just going to jump in and finalize this game, okay? So we're going to start talking about the game manager real quickly. We've visited it before when we had to use our enemy manager right here and our power up manager. And a few times we had to make sure our enemies were spawning and our power ups were spawning. But let's give a proper look at our game manager script right now, okay? So I'm going to zoom in so we can get a good look at it up here. So we have a UI section. So our level name is what appears at the beginning of every level. Uh, right now, I think the default is Game Maker Summer Workshop Example. But if I set this to something like level 1, I don't know, level 1. I'm not going to get too creative right now. I just want to prove a point that level 1 shows up now, and it's the name of our level, but that's kind of redundant, right? We automatically, level 1 will automatically increase to level 2 with your next one. But if you want to add a name to your level or your game, you can do so right here. Also, we have a level objective entry. So this is kind of what tells the player what they should be doing. So if you have a level where you have to earn 500 points, or that's a lot of points there. Let's see. I'm going to make a level. This level is going to have to be earn 50 points. All right. And then whenever I press play and then press enter, okay, let me maximize on play. So I'm going to click maximize on play and then pause it, then unwind. So at level 1, press enter, earn 50 points. So that's going to be the objective of this level. And it stays up there for a while, so just so the player knows what they need to be doing. And you'll see that my points left in my UI screen right here was set to 10. So we'll change how many points it takes to get those 50 points. We'll make it happen in the game. And this little value, whenever you beat a level, you can set the time that it will automatically start the next level. So if the player, you don't want the player messing around in the level too much, getting more power ups, cheating the system a little bit. You can end the level in like 5 seconds. They won't have time to react. All right. Typically, we want the player to kind of press enter and go to the next one on their own, but we can force them to go on their own in the next 5 seconds. We can also put level music into our game. So why don't we do that with our sound effects folder I included. It's a very modest sound effects folder. You can listen to your clips like so. That was loud. I'm going to turn down my music, my volume on my computer. Let's go down to that. All right. Was that still too loud? I don't know. I'm still trying to, I got some new recording software. Anyway, so you can preview what your music sounds like. I think my favorite song is C. No, that's not it. Is it E? Yeah, that one's my favorite. So I'm just what I'm going to make my level music. Oh, where? Okay, I got to reselect my game manager in my hierarchy, and boom, level music's back. I want to hear this, and we can adjust the volume. We also have a neat little slider here. Our we have a lot of sounds that are handled in our game by our game manager. One such is when our bullets and enemy bullets hit things, how loud do you want that to be? So we can adjust a global variable for all bullets in the game coming from the player or the enemy, that loudness there. I got tired of going through every single weapon and doing it individually. And now we have something that, let's see, let me gather my. All right. So now we have wind conditions. This is what we really want to get to here. This is kind of what dictates how our game goes by. So you can see up here, I told the player to earn 50 points. So I guess I need to update that 50 points wins the level. We can also set a time limit. So they have to do it in 1 minute. And if they don't, they lose the level with defeat. And is this the last level? No, this is my first level. I don't want this to be the last level in my entire game. All right. And then we have some props things down here. We can set how long, whenever we knock into like a garbage can or a barrel, when we send it flying, how long it persists in our level. So if you're having performance issues with too much rubble in your game or on your computer, you can set down the lifetime so it kind of just appears and then disappears, and we don't have to worry too much. Prop hit power. So when our mechs collide with power lines and garbage cans and signs, how far do these objects fly through the air? I mean, you can make it really comical and just have them shoot up to space. But I like to keep it at least under 400. Uh, and so this is more performance-based stuff for our props. We got a lot of visual effects going on in our level, and that can take a huge hit on some computers. So building rubble lifetime. So when our building explodes and shoots out rubble everywhere, how long do we want it to stick around? You know, if you're having performance issues, maybe you want it to disappear after 15 seconds of hitting the ground. Not that exciting, but at least your game can run a little bit better now, maybe. I don't know. Um, I like to keep it at 60 seconds on my computer. And bullet rubble, so whenever we shoot a building and the smaller pieces of rubble explode out, how long should they stick around? I'm going to set that to 10 because when you start building up a lot of these rubbles, things can get pretty dicey. And of course, spawns down here, we want to make sure our enemies and power ups are spawning for this particular level. There might be some instances where you don't want enemies to spawn, um, but maybe you want to have your enemy spawner in there because he makes a really good turret or something like that. So if you want to have your spawners in there shooting at us, but not spawning enemies, you can decheck that. And sometimes you just don't want power ups to spawn on your level, or you want to play around and test things. This helps you do that. So I want to talk about a feature now that is one of the examples of something that I'll think of a feature and it's just too fun not to add, and then I lose about 4 hours of sleep that day so I can get it in my schedule. You gotta suffer for the art. Our level manager usually doesn't have much going on here, and if we look into our inspector, there's not. You know, we have a stat script. Um, Word to the wise, we will not touch this stat script on our own. I have it attached to our level manager because it serves as kind of like an incubator for our player stats between levels. I basically make our player stats equal this level manager, and we know our level manager does not get destroyed. It persists from level to level. So it's like a way where I can store my player stats. Um, but we do have level progression behavior. Okay, uh, and what that means is that we can set level up characteristics for our enemies. Down here is just some read-only info that I needed when I was debugging, and I guess I just didn't hide it out from the inspector. So at least I made a little note here. Um, this is just transform objects to help us find out where our player weapons are and all that stuff. So you definitely won't be touching any of this stuff. Uh, I guess I just forgot to comment it out. But in levels beaten, an enemy level might be nice to know while you're playing or debugging your game. So I kind of included that information publicly for us. But we do have enemy levels. So let's explain how this works. Um, our enemy levels right here, level up frequency. So our levels, our enemies gain experience kind of every level. So really what that means is for every level how many levels do you have to beat for an enemy to level up? So you can do a lot of things with this. If your game is 3 levels long, like my demo game is going to be, then I can have my enemies level up every time we loop back around to the beginning of our game. Because remember, our game is going to be infinitely playable. So every time we loop back around, our enemy levels up 1 level. And when they level up, we have 3 different stats we can increase for our enemy here. Um, I didn't want to give us a whole bunch of sliders and manually adjust health and all that stuff. I kind of grouped them up into 3 things, and it works because we're not adding literally, zero point 0.3 health to our enemies every time. We're actually multiplying it by a percentage every time. So every time our enemy levels up, and if we set it to 0.5, then if that enemy had 50 health, then half of 50 is 25. So that's 50%. And then that 25 gets added on, and now our enemies have 75 health. Uh, Damage affects things like bullet damage, how fast bullets travel, bullet lifetime for our enemies, so the bullets travel longer, and our bullet size. So we can pump up the size of our bullets for our enemies if we're not too careful. And again, it's set on a percentage, so it will affect all of these different characteristics of enemy damage by a percentage. So that way, we kind of normalize the behavior, so we're not making our bullet speed just a little bit faster, but accidentally increasing the size of our bullets by too much. Everything's based on a percentage. So you could just say zero point 0.5, zero point 0.5, and they're kind of not doubling in strength, but almost. Level up aggression. So if you want to make enemies more aggressive, like their sight range increases in size, so they can see you sooner. Attack range can increase, so they'll attack you from further away. You can increase the attack frequency by a percentage, and their move speed. So this kind of makes them faster, attack more often, and see you sooner and do damage from far away. And that sounds pretty OP, so I'm just going to do a 0.25 for that every time we level up. Um, and that's basically our level progression behavior. It basically just handles the leveling up of our enemies. So I thought that was a really fun feature to add for us. It gives our game the chance to be infinitely replayable because every time you go through, you're picking up more power ups, you're getting more and more powerful weapons, but the enemies are getting more powerful. So by the time you get through, you may be at level 23 with a score of crazy, and your bullets are just insane with the effects that they have. That's my hope. That's a true kind of like twin stick roguelike mechanic. Even though our environments will stay the same every time we loop through, we can still set what enemies spawn at a score, and we can increase their level in damage and health and aggression every time we loop through. So that's a really cool feature that we can add to our game. So with these new stats or properties mentioned, I can now start formally kind of making levels winnable and move on, and I'll show us how we can make a few extra levels. I'm going to make all 3 levels. I've already made them environment-wise. I'm just talking about setting up spawners, win conditions, how the enemies spawn, what power-ups drop, stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff we also have to set for every single level. But I got a few tricks that might streamline the process. So right now, I just want to make my first level and set my win conditions. And I've already kind of got my spawn points set up from the spawn point video. But I'll recap what's going on here. Right here, I have a small spawner that flees from the player while randomly spitting out enemies. And these 2 bat guys are also random spawners. And the way random spawners work is one of these 3, since they're all considered random, is selected at random and produce an enemy for us. And I think we bring up my enemy AI, this spawner can only have 5 enemies out at a time, and the back 2 can have 15 out at a time. And then I have this proximity spawner with a really big range, so if the player's on the right side of the map trying to get away from all the enemies this guy's spawning, then he's going to find trouble. I don't know. That's just the kind of theory craft I have for this level, just to make it a little bit interesting. So basically, we have to earn 50 points in this level. And how did I get to that? Well, I wanted to have like a level where you had to kind of survive and earn points to progress to the next one. And I opened up my game manager script over here on my game manager and my hierarchy. So that's nice. I can come over here to my inspector now. And we kind of have already set the name here, but we can call this City Center. And this is the name of our level because we kind of got like a center intersection there. I don't know. And we tell our player to earn 50 points at the start of it. We already have our music set, so that's good. And most importantly, we've come down to win conditions, and we set the amount of points to win. So our enemies are about 1 point each, and our spawners are a little bit more. So we should be able to kill 50 or so enemies in 60 seconds. If we don't do it, earn 50 points. You know what? If we're going to put a time limit, earn 50 points in 1 minute. That's what our player is going to see now. If I'm putting a timer on this, let's at least tell the player they have a time limit. But if they don't uh, beat the number of points to win the level within 60 seconds, that's the time limit on our level, then we result in a lose condition. Because losing, I don't want the time limit to automatically mean you lose. Because what if you had a points to win level and you just set it really high, and then you said your time limit is 120 seconds, 2 minutes. The only way you can win this level is by surviving for 2 minutes. So that's a cool little way we can do that. In fact, that's what I'm going to do next level. So that's a little sneak peek. Peek. I do still want to set it at 60, and remember I changed these values. So let's set this at 50. And then props, that's for optimization purposes, or just if you find the rubble annoying, you can tweak how they spawn. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to come up, and our game manager in our hierarchy right here is considered a prefab. So why don't we go ahead and no, we do not want to apply this prefab actually, because every level will derive off of our game manager prefab. But if we hit apply here, then that'll make all of our game manager stuff we set, all of our powers, enemy stuff, that'll make it apply to every game manager throughout every level. So this is kind of an instance where you don't want to apply the changes to your game prefab, because we don't want our levels to have the same logic. So will never apply. Rule of thumb is never apply prefabs to your game manager, even though it's blue. Just let it be. Let it be for every single level. Okay. So I'm going to show us making the logic for a second level, and nicely I've already made it. So I am going to save this level first though, and just to make sure I save it, I'm going to go to levels and save over level 1. It's going to ask if I want to overwrite. Yes, I do. So now this is saved and it's ready to go. I'll test it at the end after we've linked all our levels together. That way I can seamlessly test the whole game at once. All right. So I'm going to go to open scene, and we're going to go to the new level I made. Or if you don't want to go through the file open scene system, we can come down here in our project window, go to levels, and you can see I have that empty template, the regular original template with the little prototype city. And then I have level 1, 2, and 3 already made. We're in level 1. I'm going to double click on level 2. And instantly you see a little bit of a different thing here. So the object here is I'm going to have enemies spawning from these roads straight to the center of the map, where the player will be with very little cover from the buildings, and he just has to survive for 2 minutes as enemies are spawning quite frequently in the level. So I kind of want it to be like a horde mode where I have to just hold on and survive. So making that kind of statement in your mind is going to be very necessary for, kind of starting out how you want your level to function. Creating compelling scenarios is half the fun of level design. Let's go, and what do I need to do? Well, I probably need to get enemy spawners in my level. And you can see here I have enemy spawners deactivated here. So it's really grayed out, and I don't see any enemy spawners in the level. And if I click this little template that's still here, it's invisible. So I can highlight my enemy spawners group here and come over to my inspector. And here we have the name of the object. I'm just going to click it true. So there we go. There's a template spawner. But you know what? I don't want a template spawner because I already made some spawner prefabs. So I'm going to delete them. And I will put random. I have enemy spawner random. And I'm going to drop it right here in enemy spawners. In fact, of all these single folders I have set up here, our game objects folders, if you don't have your spawners and enemy spawners here, then the game won't know where the spawners are, how to get to them, and nothing will spawn from these guys. So you want to make sure we place our spawners in their respective group. And here all I want to do is just set 4 spawners at the end of every road here, like so. And I want to make sure these spawners are invincible. They may already be, so I just want to double check the stats here. So we'll zoom in and see what's going on. Enemy AI, we're going to just double check that it does patrol, even though we're going to give it a speed of 0, so it doesn't walk anywhere. I guess that really actually doesn't matter. So I want to turn off patrol, and we'll set all of its values to like nothing. So just so we know it's not a patroller. It's not a fleer, so I'll set that value to nothing. This is a spawner. It should be stationary, so we'll check those things. We will have 15 enemies at a time. No, this is a horde mode. We're going to be able to have 30 enemies out from every side. So if you don't kill all the enemies, you could have 120 enemies on your tail. And we're going to collapse enemy AI and bring up our stats. And we can see that we have a health of 5. We want these things unkillable, so I'm going to give this the highest health value I can. And just set the health that it currently has just to some obscene number. I don't like those values, so I'm going to set it to something like that. I don't think we'll be able to do that much damage to it. And I'm going to set up the health recovery rate to 10. So even if we do damage a little bit, I think it'll recover itself pretty quick. And its score will be 0 because we can't kill it. Now we need to set its move speeds to 0 and 0 because it's a stationary object. Even though there's a stationary spawn checkpoint right here, we still need to set our speed to 0. And our attack frequency, if you get too close to this thing, I want it to attack every 0.5 seconds from all the guns. We want this thing to be brutal to our player. And since we can't kill it, we should probably turn off our health bar just to signify to the player that this thing has no health. You can't kill it because it has 9 billion health. Dash range and stop range won't matter. In fact, sight range, I want you to be punished if you come anywhere near this turret. The object is to stay in the center of the map and survive. So we're going to make it sight range and attack range 200. And I don't know, it's not going to move, but I just have issues of setting those both to 0. So I'm going to leave them some values below these two. I don't know if that's it just feels right. Intuition. All right, cool. I think we're good on creating this unkillable random turret. You know what? Maybe I want to go ahead and save a new prefab. Random. What is this? What kind of enemy spawner random is this? He's unkillable. He attacks really fast. He has a lot godlike. All right, enemy spot him random godlike. And then to save this spawn point, even though we renamed it, it's nowhere to be found in our prefabs folder down here. But if we drag it down here, now we do have it. So spawner godlike. And since we already set those stats, we can just duplicate and continue to place them around our city. And what direction they face really doesn't matter. So I'm not even going to bother to rotate it because it's going to rotate and look at you as is. I don't want that boundary. I feel like that boundary is a little close, but I don't expect our player to be getting this close anyway. I want to put him right in the center so our enemies can kind of make it. And you know what? This player boundary is too close. What if the enemy gets spawned and gets pushed into the boundary? Now he's stuck. Something weird could happen. So I'm going to go to layers up here, and I want to unlock player boundaries so I can grab that boundary right here, and I'm just going to push it back. So notice I just have a bunch of little boundaries kind of just kissing the perimeter of my level, and I put mountains there to signify that you can't get past here. Well, I think nice. I saw a mistake. I don't have so we could have blown up these buildings and walked scot free out of here. So constantly walking around your map, checking things out. We don't want those little kind of bugs and errors to happen because all the buildings in this level are destructible. So we don't have any non-destructible buildings. All right, cool. If you ever watch me, I've never had a student complain of getting nauseous watching my videos, but my camera movements are so spastic because I'm just always in the habit of looking around at every single angle and just observing my masterpiece that I've created. That's the kind of way you got to look at it. So why don't we make sure there's enough boundary space? So I think that's enough clearance from that boundary. That's getting a little close there, so I'm going to push this up and pull this back. Okay, cool. And if it gets on the side of the mountain, well, you can go tell it on the mountain. I think you'll be fine. Those don't have any collision anyway. So I got my godlike spawners in place. I'm going to go back up to my layers and lock my boundary building layer. Boundary it's supposed to be for boundaries, and I don't know why I called it boundary, but I have no answer to that. All right, so I've placed my spawners in my level. Why don't I play test to see how they function for me? Okay. Uh, well, I have a problem. I got an error in my game. And you might see this one yourself. So let's look into what it says. Set destination can only be called on an active agent that has been placed on a nav mesh. If you hear something like that, I don't think I baked a nav mesh. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Look at my nav mesh. I didn't even try to rebake it. I kind of did it on purpose so I can see that you have to rebake your nav mesh and every single time we play our level. And if you look at this, my plane that bakes the nav mesh right here underneath my boundary wall, it's not big enough for my level anymore. So I actually need to scale it up so I can catch these streets too. All right. Well, I guess I'm still not big enough. What I'm going to do is look at that view. Isn't that pretty cool? What I'm going to do is go to the top, use my little view cube right here and just snap to the top. And then what that also does is it puts us in orthographic mode or isometric mode. And we have no perspective shift, so we see the exact outline. We don't have to worry about perspective skewing our face. And there we go. I think that's about right. So this is what perspective would look like. Eek. But orthographic does a pretty good job. Or isometric. I always get that confused. All right. So now I need to go to my bake tab in my navigation. And if you don't see your navigation tab right here, we can find it in window and then go all the way to the bottom and find navigation. And that'll open up your tab next to your inspector that we can click between. I'm going to go to my bake menu in navigation and clear it. And then I'm going to just bake it again. Give it a few seconds. So a little bit bigger plane this time. Took a little bit longer to bake, but it wasn't too bad. We survived. All right. So if I press play, then boom, no more craziness. All right, I pressed enter. Oh my goodness, my mech is that stupid jump again. A cautionary tale. And you know what? I don't think, well, it's kind of cool how those shadows kind of fade in when you get close. Kind of preserve. I don't know. I don't think I have enemy spawning set up in my GM. Nope. Basically, we haven't set any of our game logic, so we really can't test it yet. I'm gonna call this survivors. Man, I cannot spell square. You know what? I'm gonna misspell it on purpose, and then use uh, weird stuff so people can't think I'm a bad speller. And then we're gonna give a dollar sign here, and then we're gonna do XX lowercase. There we go. I hate myself right now. All right. So our level objective here is survive for 2 minutes. This ain't no game. I'm going to capitalize every word in here. I'm going to retype that. Survive for 2 minutes. And then we're going to put, okay, I'm going to put one more. And if you want, and then one. Okay. So then this is our start time till next level. So we're going to keep it brisk. We're going to keep the player moving at a fast rate. We can set a new song here. Let's do sound effects, and then I don't care what music it is. I'm just going to put A in there. I don't know what it sounds like. I'm going to let it be a surprise. And level music, we'll keep it that. I don't know. It might be a bad song. Better turn it down. So points to win level. The only win condition for this level is surviving. So I'm going to create an impossible score to reach. You know what? Maybe I'll put it at 0. We'll see if this logic wins. Time limit 120 seconds. That is 2 minutes. And then if you make it to the time limit, you don't lose. We actually win. All right. And then we want to also make sure we're spawning enemies, and we'll spawn power ups too. And I haven't set the enemies and power ups yet, but I have them at template settings, so the game will work. I have no idea what's going on with the music right now. I kind of like it. So we get enemies that are spawning down here. Oh, these are all patrollers. They're not rushing at me. Okay, so that's a problem. Our enemies aren't behaving like we want them to. We want them to rush at us. Okay, so I think I might have messed up the level music where it repeats itself every 5 seconds at a different pitch. So I might have just messed up the whole level music. It's fine. I should have tested more, but I kept adding new features. But that was kind of a funky little remix to that song, I guess. Anyway, I need to create some enemies that behave the way I need them to. And I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. I'm not going to redesign a brand new enemy. I'm just going to bring enemy A into my inspector, and we're going to call this enemy A Rusher. And we're going to set its behavior so it rushes at the player. And there's our enemy A. And we're going to open up our enemy AI tab right here. And I don't want to show health bars. They'll die pretty easily. We don't need to do that. Sight range is like a 300. We want these guys to see us. Attack range will be 170. I'm just kind of putting arbitrary values that I know work pretty well. And we want these guys to kind of rush at us. Dash range. These guys will run at us even if they don't see us. Whenever our enemies aren't going to be patrolling, so we'll uncheck that. They just automatically rush or start moving to the player. So dash will actually mean that even though they're not in sight range or attack range, we will be sprinting at the player. So how close do we sprint towards the player? Let's say about 100, and we don't stop until we've sprinted all the way there. So if we had a little bit of distance right here, our mech would keep walking to the player until he got about 30 units away, but he would quit dashing and kind of walk in this frame right here. But I don't want that to happen. I want him to kind of run at us. You know what? It might look weird, so I'm going to do, a 70. We'll do a 30 units where he kind of walks. And fire frequency, we'll do a faster fire frequency for these guys. Between 1 and 2, or 0.5 and 2. And then this guy has that buzzsaw attack. He'll do it now between 3 and 5 seconds. I guess I'm upping the ante here. And if we turn off Does Patrol, like I said earlier, then he just rushes at our player, no matter if he's not in sight range or not. So sight range more has to do, I guess, with patrol, because if he's not patrolling, he's going after us. And we'll make our enemy B flee from us. And it's not a spawner, so I don't have to worry about that. Stats, we'll we should probably make him fast. So why don't we make his regular speed 5 and his dash speed like 20? We'll give him something interesting to work with. And the health, we want these enemies to be a little bit chunkier than the last level, so we'll give them 2 health. Okay? Cool. So we're just setting up enemy types that work for our level. I'm just working through it here. Enemy A, Rusher. I need to drag you down into my enemy mechs folder to save you. So there's this regular enemy A that patrols. In fact, we can rename enemy A right here in our project folder and call this patrol. Uh-oh. What does this mean? Who knows? And we can do the same here for enemy B. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate enemy B right here and just go ahead and call him Rusher. And why don't we? I think our other enemy was a patrol as well. All right, so that does make a difference. All right, let's bring Rusher into our scene. And I'm going to, where is he? There he is. That's enemy B. And I'm going to quickly just set up our stats again, kind of like the last time. I'll quickly talk about it. Turn off the health bar. We'll make our sight range pretty big, our attack range. Why don't we make this guy kind of a sniper that runs away from us so he can shoot us from far away? That'll be annoying. I don't want it to be too huge. And he dashes at us until about, I don't know, 400 units away. No. Let's do 20. I don't know. He doesn't stop until we hit 10. That's not going to matter too much because he's going to flee from our player. And since this guy is going to be shooting from farther range, I kind of want to make him shoot a little bit less. So between 2 and 4. And I don't remember what his secondary fire is. I think he still has the buzzsaws. So this will be kind of like an up close attack. And you know what? If he's a ranged guy, I want you to fear him from up close. So he's going to be shooting buzzsaws every second. So just kind of stay away from him, and he'll stay away from you too. So we're going to make him flee from the player, flee range. So the enemy's going to try to keep this much distance from the player at all times. 150 stuff, and he's an offensive retreater. He'll keep shooting at you as he runs away. Let's go and adjust my stats real quick. My score for this guy is going to be 3. His speed is going to be 5 and 15. We won't make him as fast as the first guy. Otherwise, we may never catch him. And his health is going to be 2 as well. We won't make him have any more or less health. All right. So enemy B Rusher. I've already made a prefab for him, so I just need to apply it now to save it. All right, let's delete him. And now let's go to my game manager here and populate my enemy manager with these new enemies. Okay, set the size to 2. How often do both of these spawn? We'll set that to 2. We have enemy A patrol in these values here. We need enemy A rusher and enemy B rusher. Perfect. And then how often do these spawn? I want these rushers A's to spawn 100 times percent, and the other ones to spawn a little bit less. Uh, Set the size to 2. How many scores to start spawning? We aren't going to worry about it. Or you know what? I think I want both of them to start spawning. Um, and you know what? Stop spawning after the score. What we can do here, we can do something interesting. We can only make him spawn the enemy bees after a certain amount of score. So last level, we had 50 points to beat the level. So why don't we say, we know we're going to start at 50 here. So after you get about 85 points, or no, we don't want to set the size to 85. We want to stop spawning enemy rusher A at 85 points, so it'll only be forced to start spawning enemy B. It'll make the level a little bit harder as we go by. Uh, you know what? Actually, these things have a score of 2, so we might need to make that 110 just to make the level kind of a little bit fairer. Drop chance for power ups. Again, set the size to 2. Element 0 pertains to my enemy A. And enemy A is going to drop power ups a little less often because he's so common at a 35% drop chance. Enemy B will drop them at a 60% chance. We don't want to set this too high because remember at the end of the level, that's all that's going to spawn. So in fact, I think I'm just going to barely make this a little bit more viable for our player to gain a power up off of him. And then again, our power up manager right here, power up list. Oh, we have to do this all over again. I don't want to have to redo all that stuff. So, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and save this scene. I've done a lot of work here. Levels. And I'm going to save over level 2. Let's replace it. And I'm going to open up level 1. Yeah, let's open up level 1. And I'm going to go to my game manager. And I want the same kind of behavior going over here. I might tweak the score, but I don't want to have to readjust all these values. So I'm going to go to my gear cog and my power up manager here, and I'm going to go to copy component. So that's kind of like copy and pasting a word or a link to the internet. So now I'm going to go and open level 2, and we're going to go up to my power up manager right now, and I hope this works. I don't think I've ever done this. I just learned about it, and we're going to paste component as new. Oh, shoot. It pasted the whole component. Nice. That's one way to do it. Let's see if we can do it another way. Remove that component. We don't want 2 power-up managers on here. So if we pasted the component as new, look, we have 2 power-up managers. That's going to break the game. So we're going to delete this component. Remember, we can do that by selecting our gear cog and going to move component. That's why I showed us that earlier, I guess. But what we can do is instead of paste component, we can paste values. And boom, all the values we had set up last level auto-populate for us. We don't have to go through the drudgery of doing that. And guess what? You can do that for the enemy manager as well from the last level. Same for any pretty much any script. GM, enemy manager, or power up. So that's nice. But now we have a new points to consider because we start this level with 50 points. So our shotgun power up won't start spawning until 80 points or 90 points. And infinite jets won't start spawning until 115 points. Okay? Score needed to start spawning up. And then fire rate decrease. Maybe we won't have the chance of spawning that till about 70 points in. So for the first 20 points of the level, we'll just be getting health increases, which will be handy in this horde mode type level. This is perfect. All right. And remember, we don't want to save our prefab. We don't. We want these game manager objects, these manager objects here to be unique for every stage and not overwrite each other with prefab applies. But what I do want to do is just save my scene to be safe. And why don't we test it? and there's that bad music. You know what I did? I wanted to. Oh, look at them! They're sprinting to us. But that'll be. Let's do this. Battle's gonna happen. And look at him. He's running away from us. Oh, guys. Dude, now this is positive. Oh, I got a health power up. I need it. Alright. Look at it. He's a sniper. He sucks. I'm going to be honest right here. This is the first time I've actually made a real level. I've been taking a video to do it. And my god, it's kind of funny. Oh, and look. Points left, -1. So that's like, how do I score -1 points? Oh, I got 60 seconds left. We got some enemies that are just stuck like things. Look at this. So good. Buzz on. Hell, and my jump is still broken, so that stinks. Jump up. Oh, I'm inside some rubble. Alright. Sorry, I got caught up playing that. That's literally the first time I've played like kind of a working, real kind of laid out level with everything in it. Okay, that was really fun. I'm glad you got to experience that. Alright, so that's our second level. It's just a horde mode. And you know what? I kind of started out spawning slow. So I think I'm going to go back to my game manager and go to my enemy manager script right here. And I think I want to set my spawn time up. Every 1 second, one of these spawners is making an enemy. And we're going to test it. Promise I won't spend more than like 15, 20 seconds. Alright. Okay, I'm pausing this. I'm going to fix those jets once and for all and then apply the prefab. Alright, I think that fixed the jet. So let's pray. XX survivors square XX. That's terrible. I'm going to use my gamepad to play this time. So I'm going to hit the back button and break out the old Xbox controller. So here we have a little gamepad and boom, better jets. Sprinting. I can rotate the camera. Clicking my sticks, we can aim up and down. There's really no up. Oh god, they're attacking me. Zoom out. Oh no. Oh goodness. Oh, power ups. Alright, I need to save my I need to let my jetpack go. Alright, that was working pretty brilliantly, guys. So next time we're gonna make a boss level real quick. I don't think it'll be as long as this. Alright, so hang on. Alright, so this level works pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and save scene as again, because I did adjust how frequently they spawn. And let's hit save right there. Alright, we're gonna open up our third level that I've built. And it's kind of like this big promenade square. The outside buildings are non-destructible. The inside buildings are, so to get to the boss that I'm going to put in the center here, we kind of have to forge a path to him, and then we're kind of locked into the Thunderdome with him. Alright, so this should be a fun level. First of all, we have to fix my nav mesh agent. So we have to bake a nav mesh for our enemies to take. Alright, so I'm just going to make it just big enough to encompass this guy. It's not too big. I'm going to go to Windows, Navigation, the Bake menu over here in my inspector. Well, actually, it's right next to my inspector. It's Navigation. We're going to clear that and rebake. Perfection. So this level now has a map baked for it, so enemies can navigate their way around. And you know what? I think I'm just going to have a single boss here. It's just going to be man versus man. Or, I don't know, maybe robots drive these. Or cats. Um, yeah. So what I need to do now is I'm not going to have any spawners, but what I can do is just place an enemy in here. So I still have my spawners deactivated. I'm going to activate it actually, but just delete the spawner template in there. And I have a boss made, but I really haven't set his behavior. So I'm going to place my enemies there. So here's my boss, and I'm going to put him right in the center of this park here. And I'm not going to worry about what way he's facing because he's going to kind of patrol this area. So this is my boss. What we want to do is we want to make him a little bit more imposing. So why don't we just scale him up a little bit? Boom. He's a big guy. All right. And what's cool is our mech's upper bodies will point down at our player. So our boss, even though he's going to be taller, will be pointing down at my mech, laying waste to him. All right. So let's set up this boss's behavior. Okay. Enemy AI. Since we don't have spawners, we don't need to worry about setting those up. So this will be a little bit faster. Sight range. Um, Maybe give him a sight range of 300. We don't want it OP, but we definitely want him to stay on the player. Attack range of 250. A dash range of. I don't want this boss really dashing at us. So as soon as he sees us in sight range, he's just done. He's going to stop dashing as soon as he sees us. He's really never going to dash. And he's going to stop about 150 units away. We got to figure out his fire frequency. I really don't have any special kind of weapons on him right now, so why don't I do that? I'm going to delete my standard bullets from him, and I'm just going to delve into my pre-made treasure trove right here and give him some fun weapons to play with. Uh, let's give him homing missiles, because that's hard, and let's give him the wave gun. All right, so we'll see how those behave in a second. We may want to set the damage of these weapons. So my player's health is 100. And my wave gun, I think wave gun basically just means that uh okay, ring, zigzag. It makes a zigzagging shot. That's true. All right. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and set some basic I'm going to collapsing now that I got those weapons on here. I'm going to set some basic attack frequency values. So how often is he going to shoot his wave shot? Uh, let's give him a pattern that we can get used to. So he's going to shoot his wave shot every 2 seconds, but his rocket launchers are going to be just random. But not having to run away from missiles all the time might be tedious. So every 10 to 15 seconds, he's going to shoot some rockets at us. And I think I'm going to go and tweak some of these weapons a little bit. But why don't we finish on our patrol? So yes, he does patrol because he's going to patrol that park. And how far the enemy can travel from their spawn to begin their patrolling. So from wherever our enemy is placed, right here in the center, we pick, a radius to find. But since I really don't want my boss wandering too far from the park, why don't we just set that patrol range to something really small, like 0.5? That basically means he's going to pick the center of that park where he's already positioned to start patrolling. But how big of an area does he patrol? So we kind of do want him to kind of walk around this whole park area. So why don't we set his patrol area range to something big like 200? He's just going to walk all around on here. And how far away is he going to stray before he goes back to his position? I'll come back to his wander time. Well, we kind of want the boss to stick on the player. We don't want him to kind of ever stop hunting the player. So infinite level, really high, as high as we can get it, which is probably the whole level. So as soon as he sees you, he's not going to get bored. How far is the enemy willing to stray from its location before it goes back? that number was small, we would be able to run away from him and he'd lose interest in us. He'd go back to patrolling. We're going to make that large. We want the boss to kind of change directions. Since he's a big guy and he's going to be patrolling a lot of area every 20 to 30 seconds. So he's going to walk from point to point between this time. Heck no, he's not going to flee from the player. Or, yeah, he will. And his offensive retreat, just so he keeps some distance from the player, so he's a little bit more compelling to fight. We'll keep him at least 200 units away. So why don't we set the stats for our boss real quick? We want this fight to be, pretty awesome. So we're going to give a player a score of 100 if they beat this boss. It's like a big point boost. How fast is our boss? Well, we move at 10 and 30. We definitely want to be able to kind of move around our boss. Our speed will probably be our asset here. So let's make him move at 7. And I don't think he really sprints too much. But when he does, it's going to be just as fast as us. But his regular move speed is 7, which is 3 less than our 10. His maximum health, we're going to give him 300 health. I don't know if that's too much, but we're going to figure it out. And he, yeah, he's going to recharge his health at a rate of 1. So if you don't shoot him within, I don't know, 10 seconds because you're running away to recharge your health, well, guess what? I think he will too. I'm still not sure if it recharges. I guess we're going to find out. All right, so that's my boss character here. Why don't we go to my game manager and set up that logic? Actually, I wanted to revisit our boss weapons because I don't want it to do too much damage, but not enough, So our wave gun, this is going to be shot every 2 seconds. Let's make it do stuff. So fire rates won't matter for us, for our guy right here. I want his wave gun though to shoot 4 waves at 0.1 intervals. So every 2 seconds. Yeah. So this shot will take 0.4 seconds. So every 2 seconds, 0.4, 0.4 seconds. All right. Multiple. We don't want to adjust because he's not going to be getting power up. We don't worry about that. Damage per bullet. We want him to do, how much do one of these do? And we're not going to have any damage fall off, so we're going to make this, every bullet retains, all 4 of these bullets are going to retain this amount of damage. 2. So if you get hit by this guy a lot, that's probably not going to be good. And our speed, though, is going to be a slow travel, but our lifetime per bullet is going to be 10 seconds. Spray is kind of our randomness that they come out. So how accurately aimed at the player is this going to be? We'll up his spray to 10. Cost won't matter. Let's keep it at a forward shot. Let's not get too crazy. Start size is 0.5. So what this does is it gets wider as we shoot it. Okay? So as we shoot it, it increases in width. So it kind of decreases our ability to move around it as time goes by. Grow time, our bullet lasts 10 seconds, so we're going to make our grow time 10, and we're going to make our grow size 10, and we're going to give this, we'll keep it at a rate of 2, so it's really kind of or 1, so it's kind of a slow grow. Okay, and homing missiles, this is a tricky one to kind of set sometimes, so I'm going to walk us through it real quick. Yeah, it's going to have a missile effect with a smoke trail. Fire rate doesn't matter. But I do want him to shoot out a volley of missiles at us. 10 missiles every 20 to 30 seconds. So this is going to be a very rare shot, a very rare attack, but it's going to be devastating. And we want them, I don't want them to all come out at once, but I do want them to come out pretty fast. So I think what I usually do is 0.08. So I'm going to do 0.02. And no fire rate loss. So what is that? 0 equals no fire rate loss. So the more bullets he has, you know what? Fire rate doesn't apply to an enemy because we set it in our enemy AI. I'm dumb. Damage per bullet, damage per missile. 10 missiles coming at you, doing 1.5 damage. So if these hit you, it's going to do a total of 15 damage. We have 100 health. Plus all the extra power ups we've been picking up for our health up. I might have set this damage too low. This guy is going to be able to do 30 damage at you. Multi-shot damage adjust, no damage loss. So we are shooting 10 bullets. All 10 bullets are going to do 3 damage each. Bullet lifetime. These things are going to travel fast, but we're going to balance it. So it's not going to just fly straight at us really fast. It's going to be a chance that they're going to miss. So I'm going to give this a short lifetime. But so the spray here, even though we're shooting 10 missiles, it's going to go. They're going to shoot at random angles between 80, an angle of 80. So bullet, they're just going to spray everywhere. Cost doesn't matter. You know what? We're gonna do. Excuse me. We're gonna do a spread shot here. It's gonna shoot kind of like the buzzsaws outside of the player at an angle of 60. So now that I've kind of figured out I want to do that, I want to adjust my spray angle. We're already shooting at an angle of 60 at the top and bottom shots, so we'll do a spray of 30 for that. Make it a little bit fun. So now we're actually shooting 20 shots, the top stream and the bottom stream. So I think I'm going to just do 5 bullets instead of 10. So I can still 5 top bullets, 5 bottom bullets, 30 bullets, missiles altogether. All right, cool. And they do leave explosions behind. That's already set up for our rockets. And the one thing I do want to note here is our movement at the very bottom of our shots properties is set to homing. And then homing seeking, if we didn't have that set up, remember, if we don't have that set, it's homing, but we're not seeking the player. It aims directly at us, and the bullets just look directly at us and come at us. Seeking is what adds that little bit of lag to our missiles, like it's trying to correct its course. And the higher these numbers, one is pretty dumb. They don't really strive to reach us too well. So I'm going to set this to 2 to 2. I might tweak these values once we start testing our boss. Okay, but before we test, I'm going to make sure my game manager logic's set up. So those are my boss weapons. And real quickly now, we're going to go to my game manager script right here, and we're going to call this Duel in the Park. We're going to say kill this boss. And time to when we kill the boss, we want to begin the next game. Why don't we give our players some breathing time? This is our last level, so let them have 60 seconds to kind of revel in their victory or something if they want. The music seems all messed up beyond all repair right now, so I'm not going to put any music on here. We're going to create a tense, silent environment with a duel. No music's going to make this just really pop. It's going to be awesome. I'm talking out of my ass. Okay, so points to win level. We'll keep that at 0. Time limit. Heck, let's just give you all the time in the world to beat this boss. So I'm going to keep it at 999. And this is my last level. If you can't beat the boss in 999 seconds, you deserve to lose. And you know what? We're going to turn off spawning enemies. And we're going to turn off dropping power-ups. Unless you want the boss to drop a special power-up that is super powerful at the end of beating him. So if you wanted to do that, enemy manager doesn't matter because we're not spawning enemies. But if you wanted to have like a pool of super powerful power-ups, you definitely could. And I think, oh, you know what? I don't know if non-spawned enemies have a chance to drop a power-up. You know what? We could just have a spawner spawn him in, and that way he gets the chance of dropping a power up. So enemies that exist in the stage don't drop power ups. Only spawned ones do. So you know what? We're going to bring in a spawner and spawn him right in the middle of the map, and it's going to be fine. Enemy spawn points. Uh, we'll make it a random spawn point, and since it's the only one in our level, then it's the only one that'll get chosen, and we'll put it right here in the center. And it's going to be, we're going to make it a godlike spawner. This is a boss battle. I might decrease its rate of fire over here to every 5 seconds it's going to shoot at us. But I'm not going to decrease its health and all that stuff. All right, cool. So now that we actually have a spawner in our level, because I realized to get a boss to drop a power up, it has to spawn. We're actually going to save the changes I made to my boss by applying the prefab up here in the inspector. We'll back out and we'll delete the boss out of the level. All right. Whoa, how did my spawner get back there? So I'm going to put the spawner directly in the middle of the part. Okay. And what we're going to do now is in my game manager, we will spawn enemies now. But we only have one enemy to spawn. And you know what? Random gorilla spawn like guy. We don't want him to spawn two bosses. So he will only have one enemy out at a time. So the boss. And that's it. So that's something we got to set on the actual godlike spawner for our level. One number at a time, please. So why don't we go to our enemy manager and start tweaking it? We already have a list of one enemy A patrol. That's not who we want to spawn. I'll go to my enemy mechs folder. We want to spawn boss A. And you know what? You could create multiple different bosses, 10 bosses, and you could have them all populate here. And then spawn frequency, you could all set them to spawn 50% of the time. So literally every time you hit this level, you could have a different boss spawn. I just realized you could do that. That's awesome. That's a pretty versatile tool. But we only have one boss made, so he's going to be the same one every time. We can always make a different boss later on. Points needed to start spawning. Uh, 0. And stop spawning after this score, 0. We want him to spawn. And enemy drop chance for a power up, 100%. He's 100% going to drop us a power up. All right, so that is our enemy managing script that we can use. And since, here we go. Yeah, I'm just thinking about how we can make sure the level ends when we kill the boss, and that's by setting our scores up, okay? Previously, our boss character gave us a point value of 100, but it's going to be hard to dictate. Oh, wait. Yeah, when you score 100 points for this level is when you defeat the boss. So I'm overthinking things. We'll just keep a score 100. And the thing I forgot to remember is that win conditions, it's not how many points you have in the total game that'll beat the level, but how many points you've earned in this level. I don't know. That's just duh, Patrick, of course. So 100. So points to win the level 100. That's the exact amount of points that our boss will give us. So we actually did have to go back and set a win condition for us. Okay. So 100 points will win our level because that's how many points. That's how many points our bosses will give us. All right. So the only thing I don't really have set up is our power ups. I don't really have any cool power ups set up. But maybe, oh yeah, I do. I do have that explosive shotgun thing I made. So that's what he's going to drop. Every time I beat this guy, he has a chance of dropping the shotgun power up. Wait, I may have not have saved explosive shotgun. Okay, either way, I just want to show that we can set a pool of really valuable power ups that our boss will have the random chance of dropping. We could have 5 really good power ups, um, and we can increase the size, and uh, we can all set this to 100 or 50, and they all have an equal chance of dropping. But like I said, 1 power up. Score needed to start dropping this power up, 0. And there we go. That's all we got to do for power-ups. Oh, let me go back and set that as 1. So when I defeat this boss, I should get the shotgun power-up because my boss enemy has a 100% chance down here in my inspector of dropping a power-up. I'm going to go ahead and save this. It's a good idea to save before you test. Well, not always, but I feel like I've done a lot of work and it's about time. Level 3. Sorry, I kind of forgot where I was. All right, let's play this level. And of course, I forgot to bake a nav mesh. Oh no, this is another error. Let me troubleshoot it. I'll be right back. And I committed one of the cardinal sins from earlier. Spawn scores needed to win. Guess what? Size. I must have set that to 0 as I was speeding through here, but it was complaining because it didn't have a value to assign this boss here. So when the size is 0, the scripts are going to be looking for what score is needed for this boss. There's nothing here. I'm not going to play this game. But I do want to keep it at 0. So I must have set the size to 0 thinking that's what I wanted to do. So, boom. If you ever see an error message that says array index is out of range, more than likely you've made an error with your list here and you need to double check the size for each property here. So I'm glad we're catching these bugs. It's almost like I planned these things. I don't know. All right. So we've baked. We got our spawner set perfectly. And there we go. Right on cue, Mr. Enemy Boy. Those are those wave shots. Do I have the health bar? Oh, dang. You see those rockets come out? They actually did track me pretty good. I have something weird set up on that. I don't like the way these wave things are traveling. I can't even see them. So I'm going to change what bullet mesh will look like. I just want to see the missiles. I just want to see the missiles. That is super cool. Let me revisit here what was going on. I needed to change my boss's shin. It looked like some kind of gun part was out of sorts, and I need to change what his bullets looked like. They were too thin. I couldn't see them. I think that's because I was using the ring mesh, and those are very thin. So I'm going to go back to my enemy mech. I'm going to bring my boss back into the scene so I can just at least look at him. And it felt like it was one of these parts that were messing up. So left gun. I had this little gun holder set to right shin because it was originally a shin part. I forgot to make it say right gun. So that'll fix that guy right there. And oh my goodness, look how messy this outliner is. It's just my enemy boss. Every time I expand it, it just spits out all this stuff. All right, so let me zoom in. If you hold down Alt key like your camera button and then click it, it'll send out every single part of this. But if you hold the Alt key and click it, all right, I am let go of the Alt key. I'm just going to click it regular, and it tucks it nice and clean away. The next thing I want to do is set the bullet mesh for this to be a little bit better than the ring right here. So these things kind of fly around. This guy's going to shoot spinning axes. That'll be cool. And I want him to spin kind of slow, be real dramatic. All right. So what we want to do is we want to save those changes we made to our prefab boss. Apply those changes. And now, since he's being spawned, we can delete him out of the scene. Let's test for about 15, 20 seconds to make sure his behavior is what we set it to. Okay. So there he is, avoiding us. Wait. The axes grow in width and look really steep. Boom. Alright, so let's fix that. Bring back the boss. That's what we had going on with this. We had them increasing width. So I want to change that. Grow over time. We're growing the width over time, but the length and the size are just terrible. I'm going to change this from a width over time. I'm going to set all these values to 0. And I want the start size to start at 2. And we're just going to make the axe grow all around bigger. Grow size, grow max. We don't want this to be too crazy looking. Grow time will be 10 seconds because our bullet lifetime is 10 seconds. And it'll grow at a rate of 1. All right, let's see what this looks like now. 2 bosses are going to spawn in the level. I forgot. Okay, that's cool. So that guy doesn't have the changes made to him yet, but those are the spinning axes. Alright, so that's cool. Boss battle made. That's hard mode right there. Alright, so enemy boss, we've made those changes to the spinning axes. Once again, let's apply that prefab, and we can get him out of here. So I'm kind of glad this video's running long, but I'm kind of glad I'm showing you the process here. Troubleshooting is tedious, but definitely doable. Alright. So I think I can go. My health bar on our boss is really low. Is that the health bar behind me? Alright, it's going to take forever to kill this guy. I think I set his health too high. So I'm going to go and grab enemy boss A. And we're going to set his stats to, we're going to give him the same health as us. 100 and 100. And that'll be that. And you know what? His health bar was dangerously low and hard to see because I scaled him up. So let's bring him back in here and see how we can adjust the height of these enemy health bars. I'll show us how we can do that right now. All right, so first of all, I want to make sure that health bar is shown. So, okay, we're going to dig through our enemy boss to find where we're hiding our health bar. So we're going to expose base mesh, base body mesh, and canvas. Canvas is what we want to get to. Enemy health slider, fill area. It's not showing up. Let's see. Well, I discovered that in our scene view, the health bar does not display itself. Must be some kind of setting I had. So I'm not going to question it. But we don't need it because we see the arrows. So as long as we can position this pivot point above our boss, like so, it'll show up floating right where these little move handles are. Okay, and again, we're going to apply that prefab. We're doing a lot to this boss to get this to work just right. And I got to tweak my weapon, man. Oh, yeah, they're found up here. My shuriken storms are weak, dude. I'm going to give myself a cheat. I want to add more damage. I'm going to add to their speed of 40, and I want to make them last 3 seconds. Just so I can get some long range on this guy. I'm not very suited to take him. For testing purposes only, I swear. Hit play, and have another little fight. Oh, so that's cool. They have a little delay behavior now. Alright, and you can see the health bar slowly dropping right here. Let me zoom out. But I think the further away, the more likely those missiles are going to hit. Boom. Oh, he spawns another one. But I got the shotgun. Boom. Explosive shotgun. So, victory, mission accomplished. Game score, all in all, was 100. And Brandon is the artist. He's one of my students that just graduated. And I did the programming. If we hit play, we begin at the same level. That's because we haven't set up our multiple levels. Success, guys. We made a boss battle. So this is my final level. And since we checked final level right here, this is the last level, yeah, under win condition. Then we can loop back around. But it looped back around to this level and not the very first level we made. So what was up with that? So what we're going to do is we're going to save the scene real quick. And I'm going to go and open up level 1 again. And I'm going to show us how we can add level 1 to the build of our game, okay? So with our first level selected, I'm going to go to File, Build Settings, like so. And I'm going to delete any trash in there by selecting it and pressing the Delete key. The Delete key is kind of near the Enter button. And I'm going to press Add Open Scenes. So whatever scene I'm in right now, we'll add it to scenes in my build. And then we just exit out. And guess what we're going to do next? Open up level 2, build settings, add open scene, level 01, level 02. And I bet you can't guess what I'm going to do next. Boss battle. Build settings under file, build settings, add open scenes, 1, 2, 3. There is my game, and now we can loop through. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to set my boss's health really low so I can defeat him really quickly. I'll go and set it back in a second. He is going to have current health of 1. He's going to be a one-hit wonder. And I just want to show us how we loop back to our first level now. Oh, he's maxing health. He must have generated his health. Oh, I never tested. He never generated his health. I don't see him generating any health. Oh, there it goes. He regenerates health. Perfect. Oh, he's really messing up this place. Alright, let's take care of business. And there we go. Level 1. But you'll notice that my game score on level 1 is now 100, meaning I've correctly looped back through. Now I have explosive shotguns. Oh, unlimited fuel. Nice. Oh. Alright. So, everything should be working fine. All that's left to do now is export it as a playable file. So, how do we do that? Well, it's pretty much already ready to go. Why don't we just save our project real quick? And we're going to go revisit build settings again. And we're going to bring up build settings. And we can pick a target platform, Xbox One maybe. Oh, we have to, okay, we can't do that. So pretty much we're just going to be able to save it out to PC, Uh, maybe iOS. I doubt it though. I think you have to pay extra licenses. And target platform Windows. Everything. You don't need to press anything. We just need to make sure we're hovering over PC, Mac, and Linux standalone. And we're going to go to build. And what we're going to do is I'm going to navigate to my desktop, and I'm going to right click in the empty space and give us a new folder because it's going to spit out a lot of different files at us. I don't want it to spit it out in my desktop. I want to put it in a folder. And we're going to call this Mech Shooter Demo Game. All right, and I'm going to select that folder, and it's going to do its buildy thing, and I'm going to see how fast it goes. Boom, building scene 2. It's pretty fast. I mean, it's not the most complicated game. All right, so boom, there's our folder with our game. So I'm going to minimize. Here's my desktop. Click on it. So something to note here, if you move any of these folders out here and you try to run the game, up, error, data not found. So do not mess with any of these folders inside of this executable file. But when we do it correctly, you can hit play, made with Unity, and boom, my game. And this is what you take to your friend's house, ask them to play your game, and then laugh and they suck. You're such a good designer, created hard experiences. And guys, that is how we make a video game. You know, some of us did some of the heavy lifting with the art and programming. But you guys take absolutely full credit for designers. And you know what? I think that's resume. That sounds like BS, but this is what it takes. You know, a lot of modders got their start in the game industry by modding. So show somebody in the future that when you started, they're gonna be, you know, cool. I don't want to just beat myself up. All I'm saying is we are game designers. Oh, I'm gonna get defeat. I didn't beat it. So I'm going to restart. All right, guys. I really hope the volume while I was playing wasn't super loud because that's got to be. You probably roll your eyes every time I do it. Okay. Anyway, so that is the video. It ran really long because we made 3 levels. We talked about win conditions, and we learned how we can build out our game. So here is your fruits of your labor. A game you can take anywhere, and I hope you really enjoyed the lessons here, and just make as many levels with as crazy objectives as you can. Thanks for spending your time with me, guys, and keep making those games.